This is Law of Attraction Explored. I'm Tim Grimes. Just want to let you know that my book, The Law of Attraction Simplified, is finally available as an audiobook. I'll put the link to the Audible version in the episode description, and you can also find the audiobook on Amazon, iTunes, or wherever you get your audiobooks. Just wanted to make that quick announcement, and I hope you enjoy the episode. As we've constantly reminded ourselves of throughout this podcast and its many episodes, when it comes to manifesting ideas and concepts, law of attraction principles in general, there's no one set way. Part of this process is experientially discovering for ourselves what works for us, what works best for us, and then naturally accommodating the change that is needed when the time arises. What works for you best today might not work best for you 2 weeks from now. And if this is the case where even what works best for you today might not work best for you in a few weeks, or perhaps not even in a few hours, it seems safe to say that what works best for someone else, as great as it may seem, may not be the right thing for you. I always like to remind people of that and remind myself of that. Because we hear all about these very interesting, provocative, even sexy approaches to manifesting. And the truth of the matter, in my experiences, is that they usually are not that relevant to what we're doing on a very personal, subjective level. Find what works for you today and utilize that to the best of your ability. And I think one of the few commonalities for, if not all, these various law of attraction approaches, at least for many of them, and the one that we constantly come back to, especially in these more meditative episodes, is surrendering, or you could say relaxing into this moment, feeling relaxed. And this is something that is very easy to implement as an approach or a practice when it comes to the law of attraction. And it's so easy to implement on a practical level that we lose sight of it quite often for these more provocative or sexy approaches that we hear about all the time. Just relaxing physically, sitting in a chair, lying on a couch, lying in bed, being in a relaxed position where you don't feel physical stress, and letting your thoughts be there, letting them run wild if they're running wild, not judging your thoughts harshly, not being overly judgmental about what comes into your mind or any of the physical sensations that arise in your body or any of the emotional feelings that come up. Letting that stuff be there and being okay with it, relaxing into it, not making a big deal out of anything. This is the approach, generally speaking, that works best for me. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to use it. But I feel confident in saying that if you're listening to this podcast, elements of what I'm telling you right now and what I've told you in the past about this kind of approach will be helpful for you, even if your own individual approach is quite different and you utilize other techniques. The reason I tend to always come back to this, to just being here now in the present, relaxing the body, being still with the body, letting what comes up come up, not trying to defend myself against it or get worried about what I'm thinking, but just allowing it to be there and relaxing into it. The reason I think I do this and always come back to it is because when I relax in this way, if I do it for long enough, eventually the inner recognition comes that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I think this is kind of what H. Emily Cady meant when she talked about trustful passivity. If we trust in God, if we trust in the perfection of the moment, then really there's nothing wrong. It's our thinking that something is wrong, imagining that something is wrong, that creates the wrongness. But the wrongness is an illusion. And this is not profound in the way that people think it is a lot of the time. This isn't a special state that you attain. This is recognizing that you are whole without needing to be anything special, without needing to imagine or becoming anything special, but that you are special already. And that if you trust in yourself in this way, if you simply relax into what you are doing right now, you eventually and inevitably recognize that you are already perfect and fine right now. And that this is not special, this is natural. This is the default. The default that we usually manage to miss because we superimpose fear, worrying, lack, deceit over this natural sense of well-being. But it's always here. So if I wake up in the middle of the night and I've had a bad dream and my heart's beating loudly and I feel tightness in my body, in my chest, if my head is racing, I might compose myself for a few moments or get up and go to the bathroom and lie back down. But then I just let those feelings be there and I relax into them. Not in a dramatic way, not in an exciting way even, just in a trustful, passive way where I know things will shift and where I know if I relax for a long enough period of time, things will shift in such a way that I realize that all these feelings of discomfort, all these scary thoughts, all these pangs in my body are not real. And what is real is here and always has been here. And the law of attraction, its teachings, its concepts that are spoken about in so many different ways, has helped me realize this more, especially on a practical level. The golden key of Emmett Fox. Stop thinking about your problems, whatever they are, and think of God instead. There's probably many different ways to interpret that famous saying. But this is how I interpret it. And it doesn't seem to have much to do with manifesting anything. But in some strange way it does. But even if my life did not change externally at all from relaxing into what is, from vibing out, as I call it, in the joy of not thinking, which is what this basically is, what I'm describing right now, this meditative practice. It's vibing out. Even if nothing changed externally, that wouldn't matter. Because to paraphrase H. Emily Cady, one moment's truth blows away all the false illusions we have, all the carnal aspirations we have of changing things externally in our lives in some dramatic way. That is not what is important on a deep emotional level. when we recognize that we're okay already. And as I said, I think this is relevant in some significant way, no matter what your manifesting process or approach is. This is something we can kind of lean back on, depend upon, if we simply allow it. And I don't know if we like to allow it, because it seems scary perhaps to allow those fearful thoughts and feelings to be there and not to actively do anything about them. Or perhaps it feels like we're not getting anywhere when we do this, that we're not focusing our mind or our imagination in a disciplined enough fashion to change things. But it's exactly because of this that we're allowing all these seemingly negative things in and not trying to manipulate them, but simply looking at them in a truly more non-judgmental way, that the magic inevitably happens. And the magic is just now. And now is always here. It's a lesson we can remind ourselves of again and again.